From tee shots that didn't even make it past the ladies' markers, to shocking blunders right when everything was on the line. These are the most embarrassing golf moments ever happened at the Masters. And first we start with number 15. Let me tell you, this is Bryson DeChambeau at maximum Bryson. Fresh off his US Open beatdown and feeling like the Hulk with a driver, Bryson waltzed into Augusta National and said the quiet part way too loud. For me, Augusta's a par 67. That's right, not 72, not even 70, 67. Why? Because he could hit it so far, he figured the par 5s were tap-in birdies, and even a few par 4s weren't safe. He basically told the golf world, this course, it's cute. Golf fans gasped. Augusta traditionalists clutched their pearls. And the golf gods? Oh, they were listening. Because what followed wasn't domination. It was a public golf course beatdown. Bryson looked like a man trying to speedrun Augusta with cheat codes, and the game glitched hard. He was wild off the tee, couldn't find a fairway to save his life, and even lost a ball on hole 3. In the rough near the fairway, like it vanished, gone. He complained about dizziness. He looked confused, but Augusta didn't care. That course wiped the confidence right off his face and gave him a big old reality check. By the end of it all, the man who called it a par 67 didn't even make the cut. He shot 74-74 and packed his bags early. Moral of the story? You don't walk into Augusta, trash talk the course, and expect it to roll over. Augusta hears you. And if you're not careful, it'll turn your par 67 into a personal crisis. Next up, number 14. The Masters is known for testing the nerves of even the greatest golfers, but in 2016, Ernie Els faced a nightmare that no golfer could prepare for. A moment so surreal, it felt like Augusta itself was out to get him. It was the very first hole of his round, usually a time for setting the tone and finding a rhythm. Els, a seasoned veteran with major titles under his belt, approached the green with confidence, ready to open his tournament on the right foot. But then, something unusual happened. He lined up his putt, likely visualizing an easy start. But as his putter made contact, something felt off. His ball rolled toward the hole, only to veer just wide. Surprised but undeterred, he set up again, expecting a simple tap-in. Yet, the ball missed again. And again. Each attempt seemed to defy him more, turning a straightforward putt into a slow-motion disaster. By the time he finally sank the putt, Els had taken an unthinkable 6 strokes just to hole out, recording a painful 10 on that opening par 4. A brutal sight for fans as the dreaded yips seemed to grip him in front of Augusta's quiet, watching crowd. Moral of the story? When the yips show up, even a champion like Ernie is in for a wild ride. All right, on to the next. Number 13 takes us back to the 1989 nightmare of Augusta National. Scott Hawk had the green jacket within his grasp during a playoff against Nick Faldo on the treacherous 10th hole. With Faldo stumbling to a bogey, the door was wide open for Scott. 2 putts from 30 feet would secure his first major championship. Simple enough, right? Not at Augusta. Scott's first putt wasn't ideal, leaving him just under 3 feet for the win. But it was that second putt, less than 3 feet, that turned into one of golf's most infamous moments. The pressure of potentially winning the Masters seemed to freeze him in place. He studied the putt for what felt like an eternity, circling it from every angle like he was analyzing a masterpiece. Front, back, side to side. If drones existed then, he might have gotten an aerial view. The longer he stood over it, the more daunting that 3-footer became. Finally, he took the stroke. And in the cruelest twist of fate, Scott made the ultimate pressure mistake. He both played for break and hit it too firmly. The ball blasted past the hole, rolling 5 feet beyond. Though he composed himself enough to drain the comebacker and extend the playoff, the damage was done. His confidence had evaporated. On the next hole, sensing the moment, Faldo struck like a shark smelling blood in the water. He buried a 25-foot birdie putt, clinching the victory and leaving Scott as yet another tragic what-if at Augusta. But wait until you hear about number 12, because in 2021, Billy Horschel gave us not one, but 2 moments that had golf purists clutching their pearls at the sacred grounds of Augusta National. The Masters tournament is golf's equivalent of a black tie dinner. Everything's supposed to be proper, pristine, and perfect. Well, somebody forgot to tell Billy that. It started on the 7th hole during the 3rd round. Horschel, clearly frustrated with his play, decided his golf bag needed a bit of percussion practice. The cameras caught him repeatedly slamming his wedge into his bag with the kind of fury usually reserved for drummers in heavy metal bands. But that was just the opening act. Later in the tournament, Horschel found himself facing a shot from the famous Rays Creek on the 13th hole. Now, most players would take their medicine and a penalty drop. Not Billy. He decided to channel his inner creek warrior, taking off his shoes and socks, rolling up his pristine white pants, and wading in. What happened next? Well, let's just say that Augusta National slopes are slippery when wet. Down he went, creating a moment that instantly went viral and had the golf gods shaking their heads in disbelief. Coming in at number 11, well, he was just 2 holes away. That's it. Kenny Perry, at 48 years old, was about to make history as the oldest player to ever win the Masters. The crowd was buzzing, the commentators were practically writing the headlines. And Perry? He looked calm, collected, like a man in total control. But then, Augusta did what Augusta does. On 17, with a short iron in hand, Perry just needed to hit the green. Instead, he flared it wide right. Still, no big deal, right? Just a simple chip to save par. But what followed wasn't a tour-level chip. It wasn't even a Sunday golfer chip. He bladed it, hard, the kind of shot that makes you gasp and pretend you didn't see it. Suddenly, the wheels were wobbling. On 18, needing par to win, Perry again came up short. Another missed green, another missed opportunity, and just like that, we were headed to a playoff. But the bleeding didn't stop there. While Angel Cabrera found a way to hang in, Perry missed yet another green. And this time, the dream officially died. After the dust settled, Perry didn't make excuses. He stood in front of the cameras and said, "Great players make it happen, and your average players don't." Brutally honest, painfully humble. It was a collapse that left golf fans heartbroken, stunned, and oddly admiring. Because while Perry didn't slip on the green jacket, he walked away wearing something else: respect. Here we are at number 10. And ironically, that number's about to make a lot of sense. You'll find out. Just a year after his incredible 2019 Masters victory, Tiger Woods returned to Augusta in 2020. But this time, he faced a moment that no one, especially not a 5-time Masters champion, could have expected. So here's what happened. It was the infamous 12th hole, right in the heart of Amen Corner, a stretch that has crushed many Masters dreams. As Woods lined up his shot, Rays Creek waited ominously in front, almost daring him to take it on. He took his swing and the ball drifted left, landing straight in the water. A mistake, but one he could recover from. Woods reset for his next shot, determined to put it behind him. But shockingly, his ball found the creek again. A third attempt? Same outcome. 3 times in a row, Woods watched as his ball plunged into the creek's magnetic pull, with each splash amplifying the tension among fans and broadcasters. On his 4th attempt, Woods finally cleared the creek, only for his ball to find the bunker. After a tricky escape from the sand, he finally got onto the green, but only after 8 strokes. A couple of putts later, he walked off the 12th with a 10, his highest single-hole score in Masters history. Amen Corner doesn't play favorites. Even Tiger wasn't safe from its curse that day. Now we've reached number 9. And this is a collapse so brutal, it nearly broke a future legend before he ever got started. Back in 2011, a baby-faced 21-year-old from Northern Ireland, with a mop of curly hair and the golf world at his feet. For 3 days, it felt like Augusta was his playground. He opened with a bogey-free 65, added rounds of 69 and 70, and took a 4-shot lead into Sunday. The green jacket? Practically stitched. But nobody could have predicted what happened next. The collapse started slowly. A few wobbles on the front 9, nothing major. Then came the 10th hole, and oh boy, did things get weird. The ball ended up between the cabins to the left of the fairway. Yes, you heard that right, cabins. Most people didn't even know there were cabins on Augusta National. The TV cameras had literally never shown them before. That's how far off the map Rory had gone. By the time he reached the 13th hole, his ball was swimming with the fish in Rays Creek. The final damage? A terrible round of 80. That's right, he went from leading the Masters to shooting the highest score of anyone in the field that day. Next, number 8. Not every unforgettable blunder at the Masters comes from a player. In 2019, a security guard at Augusta National became an accidental star, and not for the best reasons. The incident took place on the 14th hole, a critical point in Tiger Woods' round as he was making his way out of the trees on the left side of the fairway. Woods, having just nailed an impressive shot, was moving along, fully in the zone, but then the unexpected happened. The guard, intending to protect Woods from an enthusiastic crowd, rushed to hold fans back and accidentally slipped on the damp grass. What was supposed to be a quick block turned into a dramatic slide straight toward Woods, his foot nearly colliding with one of the world's most famous golfers. In the heat of the moment, fans could barely believe what they were witnessing. Imagine a crunching tackle more suited to soccer than a golf green. Vinnie Jones himself would have probably given an approving nod to the guard's unintentional move. And let's not forget the split-second horror as people held their breath, hoping the legend wouldn't get hurt. Luckily, Woods emerged unscathed, only needing a moment to shake off the surprise. As the guard awkwardly recovered, Woods simply got back to business and went on to win the Masters that year. Looks like that guard's best save of the day was not injuring Tiger. Too bad not everyone has that amount of luck. Which brings us to number 7. They say Augusta National has a way of exposing your weaknesses. But for Tsuneyuki Tommy Nakajima, it didn't just expose them, it put them on a billboard. It was 1978, his very first Masters appearance, and Nakajima was doing just fine until he reached the par 5 13th. Rays Creek was waiting, as it always is, quiet, still, and deadly. Nakajima's tee shot wasn't terrible. His second, risky. And then came the disaster. His ball trickled into the water, just barely. Instead of taking a drop, he did something bold, something brave, something that would haunt him forever. He waded in and tried to play the shot straight out of the creek, and it went exactly how you're imagining. The club slapped the water, the ball stayed put. A second penalty followed, then another. Before anyone could process what they were witnessing, Nakajima had racked up a 13, the worst score in Masters history at the time. And just when you thought the golf gods might ease up, they didn't. A few months later at the British Open on the infamous 17th at St. Andrews, Nakajima found himself trapped in a bunker and took 4 swings to escape. That one hole cost him 5 strokes and gave birth to a cruel new phrase, the Sands of Nakajima. 2 legendary courses, 2 unforgettable disasters, 1 brutal year. No player ever dreams of being remembered for a meltdown, but Nakajima's double dose of disaster etched his name into golf history in exactly the way he didn't want. Coming in at number 6, which brings us Ed Snead at the 1979 Masters, who wasn't so lucky. After maintaining a comfortable lead throughout most of the tournament and beginning the final round with a 5-stroke advantage, Snead looked destined to slip on his first green jacket. With just 3 holes to play, he still held a 3-shot lead. Simple math says you can bogey every hole and still win, right? Well, that's exactly what Snead did, and incredibly, it wasn't enough. What followed was one of the most agonizing finishes in Masters history. 3 straight bogeys, each one more painful than the last. On the 16th, his par putt caught the edge and spun out. On 17, same story. The ball teased the hole before refusing to drop. It was as if the golf gods were playing a cruel joke, watching those putts dance around the cup before staying out, like they were toying with Snead's dreams. By the time he reached the 18th hole, you could see the weight of the moment crushing him. His final par putt to win the Masters stopped just inches from glory. The playoff loss to Fuzzy Zoeller that followed was just the final twist of the knife, Fuzzy becoming the first rookie to win the Masters since Gene Sarazen in 1935. Some say you can still hear Snead's sighs echoing through the Augusta pines. Well, maybe I'm exaggerating, but it really is a wake-up call to remember that in golf, no lead is ever truly safe, even when simple math tells you otherwise. Sliding into our top 5 of the most embarrassing moments in Masters history. Here we are with CBS broadcaster Gary McCord, who learned the hard way that at Augusta National, some things are better left unsaid. See, if the Masters tournament is golf's equivalent of a black tie dinner, the Augusta National Golf Club is the Royal Palace, where tradition reigns supreme and every word spoken is expected to match the prestige of the green jacket itself. But in 1994, Gary McCord maybe didn't know that. It started during a late afternoon broadcast. McCord was in the booth doing his usual colorful commentary when he spotted an advertisement in a magazine during a commercial break. It was for the Golden Door Spa, listing various treatments including, of all things, bikini waxes. This gave him an idea for what he thought would be a clever description of Augusta's notoriously slick greens. He said they were so fast they looked like they'd been bikini waxed. Innocent enough, right? Wrong. The members at Augusta National Golf Club were not amused. But wait, it gets better. He then referred to the mounds behind one of the greens as body bags. That was the final straw. The next thing McCord knew, he was persona non grata at golf's most prestigious event. Banned, exiled, never to return to the Masters broadcast booth again. All because of a bikini wax reference and some body bags. That was a tough crowd. Number 4 is the kind of embarrassment that still makes golf fans cringe. What happened to Jordan Spieth at the 2016 Masters wasn't just a collapse. It was a total unraveling that turned a sure win into one of the most gut-wrenching disasters Augusta has ever seen. Spieth was the golden boy of golf, defending Masters champion. Already had 2 majors at age 22. He'd led an incredible 7 straight rounds at Augusta National, a feat not even Tiger Woods had managed. As he made the turn on Sunday with a 5-shot lead, it seemed like we were watching the birth of a dynasty. Then, everything falls apart. Bogey at 10. Okay, no big deal. Bogey at 11. Getting a bit dicey. But what happened at the 12th hole? That's where this went from a regular collapse to something that'll be talked about for generations. 2 balls in the water. A visit to the bunker. When the dust settled, Spieth had made a quadruple bogey 7. That's right, he took 7 shots on a par 3. In the span of about 30 minutes, he went from leading by 5 to trailing by 3. What makes this one the most painful? It's not just the size of the lead or the speed of the collapse. It's the stage, the setting, and the player. This was Jordan Spieth, Mr. Consistency, the guy who seemed immune to pressure. This was Augusta National, where he'd looked unbeatable. And this was a collapse that happened so fast, so unexpectedly, that nobody could quite believe what they were seeing. Years later, Spieth would insist, "I didn't choke." Maybe he's right. Maybe it was just a technical flaw in his swing that picked the worst possible moment to show up. But for everyone watching that Sunday afternoon, it felt like we were witnessing something we'd never seen before and hope to never see again. And here we are at number 3. It's 2018, and Sergio Garcia, the defending Masters champion, stepped onto Augusta's 15th hole with confidence, hoping to carry on the magic from his 2017 victory. But in a matter of moments, that confidence would crumble, and his round would unravel into one of the most jaw-dropping meltdowns Augusta had ever seen. A scene so painful that fans couldn't decide whether to watch or look away. So, what the heck happened? Well, the 15th hole, known as Firethorn, is usually a chance for birdies, maybe even an eagle. But it comes with Augusta's trademark risks. Garcia's first approach shot looked good, until it spun back, trickling down the slope and plunging into the water. Frustrated but undeterred, Garcia dropped another ball, determined to make it count. He took his shot, and yet again, it hit the green, only to roll back down and splash into the hazard. Now visibly rattled, he tried a 3rd time, then a 4th. Each time, the ball seemed cursed, stubbornly finding its way back to the water. By the 5th shot, it was no longer just frustrating, it was painful to watch. Fans around the green shifted uneasily as one of the best golfers in the world battled a hole that had turned into his worst nightmare. Finally, after 5 balls had taken the same watery fate, Garcia managed to land one safely on the green. But by then, the damage was done. A series of agonizing putts later, he tapped in for a staggering 13 on the hole, tying the record for the highest single-hole score in Masters history. It wasn't just a bad hole, it was a complete collapse on the very course where he had been a hero just a year earlier. At number 2, we've got the collapse that rewrote the definition of choking in golf. Greg Norman's 1996 Masters disaster isn't just famous, it's legendary for all the wrong reasons. If there's a blueprint for how not to close out a major, this is it. Norman starts Sunday with a 6-shot lead. To put this in perspective, in the previous 60 years of Masters history, nobody had ever lost a lead that big in the final round. Well, somebody had to be first, right? The collapse started slowly, almost imperceptibly. A missed putt here, a wayward drive there. Playing partner Nick Faldo, meanwhile, was like a shark smelling blood in the water. The lead started shrinking. 6 shots became 4, then 3, then 2. By the time they reached Amen Corner, you could literally see Norman crumbling. His trademark swagger was gone. The confident strut had become a defeated trudge. Shot by shot, hole by hole, the lead disappeared. Norman shot 78, turning a 6-shot lead into a 5-shot defeat. It was so painful that even Faldo, normally a stone-cold competitor, hugged Norman afterward and said, "I don't know what to say." Well, what can you say? How do you console someone who just lived through their worst nightmare on global television? Now, here it is, the #1 spot on the list. And this one has to be the most embarrassing moment in golf history. This time, it's Argentine golfer Roberto De Vicenzo taking center stage in a story that still stings to this day. So here's the situation. De Vicenzo had just finished an incredible round of 65, putting himself in perfect position for a playoff. But his playing partner, Tommy Aaron, mistakenly marked him down for a par 4 on the 17th hole instead of the birdie 3 that De Vicenzo had actually made. Unaware of the error, De Vicenzo signed his scorecard, thereby making the incorrect score official. Now in golf, the rule is clear. Players are fully responsible for their own scorecards, and once you sign it, that's it. So signing for a higher score means that score stands. As a result, De Vicenzo's official score was recorded as 66 instead of 65, leaving him just one painful stroke behind Bob Golby, who was declared the winner. This incident cost De Vicenzo a spot in a playoff for the championship. When he realized the mistake, his reaction was both humble and unforgettable. He simply said, "What a stupid I am." Not exactly how you want to remember your 45th birthday. Oh, and now you're still here. We have another great golf video for you right in the middle of the screen. Enjoy.